Good afternoon, Dr. Nettles. Good to see you, my friend. Welcome back to another episode of Ingredients for a Better Life. I'm here with Dr. Robert Nettles, the Chief Medical Scientist and founder of the program. Good afternoon, Doctor. Happy Friday the 13th.
Good afternoon, Chef Jay, Friday the 13th.
It's a perfect segue into today's episode. I'd like to ask you a few questions about human behavior. But first, how are you, Doctor? How's your week been? How's everything been going?
I'm doing great. Is that a new headset you have on there, Jay?
No, same old headset, different views. They're doing some
Different view. Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing some construction out there, so it's a little noisy outdoors today. So I thought to bring it in.
All right.
But let's get started. First of all, a lot of people know, sure, you're a medical doctor, and then you went on to um, become a surgeon with the FUE method, the follicular unit extraction method, which was, the current method at the time. You were studying with surgeons, eventually went on to do it professionally in Beverly Hills. So why, human behavior? How does human behavior, and you went to obtain a master's degree in human behavior. So it's interesting to me, and a lot of our viewers, I'm sure, to know, like, why did you pursue that? Because a master's degree, as everyone knows, is not a simple feat. So why did you pursue that, and how does it relate to the current Stop and Regrow program?
Well, good question, Jay. The first thing I realized early on is the gift of time, which is daily bread, right? People talk about investing dollar bills, but you can make more dollar bills, right? You can even print them if you've got the right kind of machine, but you can't do that for time, right? Time is our most valuable asset down here. So I realized that I needed to invest my time to get what I wanted to get accomplished. So as you're aware, God sent me down here to help these people. So I knew helping people was what I came to do. And you had to learn something, right? Knowledge doesn't drop off the trees, unfortunately. So I had to put into some effort, right? A little elbow grease. And after I'd learned to become a surgeon and had already been a practicing physician, I looked around and thought, Jay, what else can I learn down here? And human behavior was something that is something I was interested in, right? It's the pursuit of how to learn how we behave. And behavior is what we do every day, starting from when we wake up until we go to sleep. So life is based on our behavior. So I was interested to learn why we behave the way we do, because as you're aware, our program is a behavior modification program. It
Yes.
is modifying your behavior. So we take you currently as is, and we find out what is your behavior today. And you and I happen to know the best behaviors in life that lead to the best outcomes. So I had to figure out, how do I get the current human from where they are to where you and I need them to be? So I did study the human behavior. It's called applied human behaviors. It's actually applying the behavioral techniques. And the first thing I learned was, you can't change anyone's behavior, Jane,
Yep.
because the question I get most often is, hey, doc, I want to change this person's behavior over here. How do I do it? And first thing I tell them, you can't do that, right? You can't make a fish climb a tree,
Yep.
because that repertoire, that behavior is not within their repertoire. So you have to figure out what is inside the current repertoire of someone's behaviors, and then you can modify those behaviors, right? We can increase those behaviors, we can decrease those behaviors, and our ultimate goal, Jay, is to replace those behaviors. Now you
It,
apply that same principle to the molecules inside your body, right? We're asking one molecule to move to the other side. So we're regulating the behavior of the enzymes, and we can do that with supplements. So if
right.
we can do that with a supplement, you and I can also do that with programming. So our 12-month program, the first year is so important, right? And you allude to this often, because that's when we instill all of these good behaviors into someone's daily routine. And if they stick to it, oh boy, what a life they have. So our goal always in the program was to change the human's behavior. Hair loss, right? That's the tip of the iceberg, as you always talk about. So we're talking about foods that fuel the rocket ship. So everything goes hand in hand.
It sounds very similar, hand in hand with the first law of thermodynamics. It's not only at a molecular level, it's also at a behavioral level. It sounds like same type thing. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah, you and
so
I put it all together.
another question is, why is it, especially as people get older, I find, especially males, that you alluded to last week that there are two types of people we come across. There are people that are very proactive and they're looking for change. They want to identify a problem. They want to identify what's causing the problem, and then they want to, seek out an alternative method or something that might not be, we'll say, status quo or whatever their whatever's current right now. But there's the other side of the other person that kind of shuts down and has this jaded, negative type energy, and feels like they're just not open minded to it. So I'm just asking, why is it? Especially, I talk to people on the phone, and there's these two different types, and coming from a human behavior standpoint, why do you think that occurs?
All right. So I take thinking aside and we use data, right? And the data shows us that the environment, right? Your neighborhood raises your child.
Yeah,
You tell me the seven people that you spend the most time
yeah,
with, Jay, and I'll tell you who that person is right there. So you start to realize you didn't pick your parents, you don't pick your family, but at some point in time when you become an adult, you can choose to change your environment. And when you choose to change your environment, it allows for change. Because what we realized in behavior was once we got someone to change individually, we then had to generalize that change, right? If the change only occurred inside the hospital bed, it wasn't going to help us when that person walked out into the streets. So
sure.
you have to generalize that. So we talk about creating a supportive environment. So if people around you aren't healthy, let's seek some healthy people and become friends with those people.
Yeah.
And then guess what? We will become more healthy, right? More support staff.
Again, it's ringing a bell with the environment inside when you rebalance the environment. It's all related. Um, so the last question is, I believe, because of myself, that everyone has the power to change. And you could, replace a bad habit just as easily with a good habit if you're able to. So I was doing a little research and thinking and wondering how, the unconscious versus the unconscious brain, or I call it the good brain versus your bad brain. And once you kind of identify and understand that, it makes it a lot easier when you have these, emotions, feelings, or negativity. You can kind of shut it down and say, no, you know, bad Jay, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go and do this because I know, but I feel a lot of people aren't aware of that type of thinking. So, what do you think about all that stuff?
Well, it's just it's the root cause of all either pain or gain in life, right? Do you believe that you have free will? And by that question, do you have control of your thought? And you would probably say, yes, I can control my thought. Can you control your thought right now, Jay, this second? Yes.
Yes.
Can you control it this second right here? That's 2 seconds in a row. Jay, can you do this for 10 seconds? The answer is yes.
It
Jay, can you do this for 60? Jay, can you do this for 60? Jay,
yeah.
Jay can't, yes, you can. Do you allow the outside world to bend you, influence you to do things that you know are wrong and not right and things that are not the way, right? Jesus came and said, prepare the way it's in your mind first, right? Low down the mountains and raise up the valleys because they're inside your own mind. The gulfs are there. We allow them to exist. We allow that sin to creep in. We allow ourselves to fall off left and fall right. But do we have free will? Yes. Do we have control? Yes. Do we have habits in place that will guide us? And the answer is no, right? We talk about the instructions manual. There is not one besides God's story. God wrote a Bible, his story. He said, this is it. From generation to generation to generation, it's always been the same. God is unchanging. So what we realize is, you said it, habits were what we formed over time. Once we become aware and we want to change ourselves, we've got to change our habits. So first identify, what are my habits? And that in behavior is called a preference assessment. You first figure out, what the heck does Jay like? Preference,
Yeah.
right? Once I know your preferences, I then can reinforce those behaviors with reinforcers that Jay values. It's always about value. I have people call up sometimes, Jay, when they get on the program, they say, hey, doc, your program's expensive. And I say, well, first I tell you, the first bottle cost me $150,000. That was my bottle. So your bottle will never cost you as much as it did me, but I valued the outcome. So if you value hair, we're at $8 a day.
Yeah. Well,
If you think $8 a day is expensive, then you do not value your hair, right? So it's always about preference assessment. So we find out in the assessment, sometimes people don't truly value their hair enough to make the decisions. They
but
don't value their hair enough to make changes in their diet, changes with their exercise, changes with their friends. So going back to the habit, so we are ingrained with habits. What is a habit? It's what you do, right?
well, yep.
Good or bad is a label that we place on it, right? But habits are what we do. So the goal, as you mentioned, get out of the bad ones, get into the good ones, but you got to get into them, right?
I find it interesting because the people that say that about the hair program, $7 a day, are driving around with $40,000 cars and the latest Nike sneakers on their feet. So I feel a lot of times there are these people that don't take an honest look in the mirror at themselves and do a little bit of soul searching. And once you do that and you can come clean with yourself, because I feel like a lot of people, they put up this front and this false idea about who they are with themselves. And that's the big hurdle, because once they can do that and say, hey, I'm going to make a change, I'm going to find out what's going on, I'm going to get a blood test, figure out what's happening, why this is, and I'm not going to pretend anymore. Once you stop pretending, I find, and then
Now, Jay, you hit the nail right on the head. Now your volume cut just a second there, but you mentioned it. You've got a musical background. I'm not sure if all of your followers are aware of that, but you're quite an accomplished musician, and you hit on it. You said something that a wise man once before us said. I'm talking about the man in the mirror. I'm
yeah,
asking him to change his ways, right? Michael Jackson was right. I'm talking
yeah,
about the man in the mirror. I need him to change his ways.
yeah, that's it. All right, doctor. Well, I took up enough of your time. Thanks for joining me today on another episode of Ingredients for a Better Life. I look forward to talking to you next week. Take care of yourself before the next new moon coming on February 5th. So we're just getting out of the old what was it? The old wolf moon. And I used to think it was a bunch of rubbish, but you ask any medical doctor, any police officer, anyone working in the ER, they'll tell you that they plan around the moon cycle because it affects how people react. And this one especially has been a pretty severe cycle, I believe. So we're coming out of it today, but another one's coming up. So take care of yourself. I know you will, but
You're
um,
right, Jay. You touched on it. We think that the sun reflects off the moon, but if you read God's story, He said, "I've got a larger light and I've got a smaller light." So
yeah.
there's a lot that we don't know, and we've told everybody we landed on the moon. And I don't know who's up there, Jay, but we don't need to go anywhere. God made Earth, and all of the satellites tell us that the Earth is in the absolute center of the entire universe. There is only one, and God put us here.
All right, Dr. Ray. God bless you. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you next week.
You got it. Great talking to you, Jay.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Thank you.